So, for about a decade, I have been really interested in the idea of digital nomads, people who work remotely and just travel while they do it. I grew up camping, so this was really fascinating to me. In 2016, I was working as a freelance translator and I bought a Nissan NV200 mini cargo van and converted it into a camper. I recorded most of that process on this channel. And my goal was that when I finished that camper, I would hit the road, and I was trying to persuade a friend to do it with me. He also works remotely, and I thought we'd have a lot of fun traveling together, but he was unconvinced. It wasn't the lifestyle that he was interested in. And I found that when I finished the camper, I was really afraid to do it alone. So I ended up selling the camper, and then I would end up getting a in-person conventional job, but I never let go of that idea of wanting to be a digital nomad. In 2018, I got a full time remote position, and that put the idea and really the possibility back in my head. Now, initially, I was in a role that wouldn't have allowed me to travel, but after a year, I was in a much more flexible role. I spent some time in Cincinnati visiting a friend. I spent a month in Quebec City where I went to graduate school. That was a ton of fun. And by the end of 2019, I was trying to figure out what model of RV I wanted because I was going to buy something this time. I was making a little more money so I could afford a payment. I I knew that I wanted a Class B, a camper van, because it was small, compact, and easier to drive. But I found that a lot of them, in my opinion, were very claustrophobic on the inside. Until I found the Winnebago Travato. So it was early 2020, and I figured out that the Travato was the model that I wanted. I saw it in person at a camper show here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I found one nearby, just a few hours away, at a really good price. So I bought it in March of 2020. The pandemic happened. A lot of travel was not allowed. I am a chronic rule follower, so I wasn't going to go anywhere. And I'm also immunocompromised, so I was really concerned about the pandemic. But I knew that someday it would pass and I would be able to travel. So I continued making plans to do that. I was camping in my Travato in my parents' driveway, and I adopted a dog. I wanted a travel companion. Not really concerned about security because I like small dogs. But I met a bunch of rescue dogs. I felt that rescuing was the more responsible choice to make rather than buying a puppy, which in my case maybe would have worked out better. But I rescued a dog. I asked as many questions as I could think of. I tried to do my due diligence. I asked if he was good in the car, for example. I met him. He was very sweet. I was really optimistic. After I adopted him, I named him Rex after Captain Rex from Star Wars. I fell in love with him very quickly. I love him to death, but he has some anxiety issues. He actually takes a daily anxiety medication. And in 2020, when we weren't yet traveling, I was like, well, this will be okay because he will acclimate to the camper. That will be his home, which he very quickly recognized that as home and he liked to be in our camper. The problem ended up being the physical driving. So in January of 2021, I saw that Milwaukee was going to have a high of -4 degrees. And I thought, nope, we're out of here. So Rex and I hit the road aiming for Quartzsite, Arizona. I had followed Bob Wells on Cheap RV Living. I heard a lot about the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous. I don't think it was happening that year, but I still wanted to go to Quartzsite. It was a very long, difficult journey. Now, fortunately, I was only traveling for a couple hours a day because I was working full time during the day. But even going short distances is very hard for Rex. I have an as needed anxiety medication for him, but it's not something to be given every day. So getting down there was a challenge. Once we got to the Arizona desert, we stayed in the long term visitor area for 4 weeks. It was very inexpensive. We had a great time. We both really loved it. But then I had to come back to Wisconsin. I have ulcerative colitis, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, and the treatment that I receive for that is an IV infusion every 8 weeks. So I needed to come back to Wisconsin for that. It requires it to happen in a doctor's office. I can't just go to a pharmacy and pick up a prescription, and it needs all of that insurance stuff, pre-approvals, all of that business. So I had to come back home, and that travel back home was again really difficult for Rex. So I had to figure out what was possible. And after taking some trips in the summer of 2021, I was at the point where I realized that the nomadic life wasn't going to be possible as I had envisioned it with my circumstances. My dog wanted to sort of stay in place for longer periods of time, but I needed to be coming back to Wisconsin for medical treatment. I didn't know what to do. I didn't give up, but I didn't have a solution at that time. So I sold my camper and I bought a house. Now, the house is great for Rex because he has a fenced in backyard. Any time of year, he can run around outside. But I always said that I never wanted to own a house. And the last 18 months of owning a house has proven to me that my gut feeling was right for me. A lot of people love owning houses, but I don't. I don't like the maintenance. I don't like everything that goes with it. And I have lived in multiple studio apartments. I've lived in a camper van. I don't even need this much space. So I have two goals right now. One is to reduce my cost of living. The other is to not be in Wisconsin next winter. Winter is very hard for my mental health, and there's really no reason that I need to be here. The only reason that I keep Wisconsin as my home base is because I'm very close to my family. So I want to be here a lot, but I don't need to be here in the winter months. So now I'm trying to figure out what is my next move going to be. I thought maybe I would buy a property in Arizona and then we would have a home base there. I could get medical treatment in Phoenix and we could stay down there for a set number of months. We could be down there all winter, say 4, 6, 7 months in Arizona, then come back to Wisconsin and figure out a place to stay here, a campground, something like that. And I found some fairly inexpensive properties in Quartzsite that allow you to have RVs on them. That's the key. Again, I follow the rules, and a lot of property types and zoning regulations don't allow you to live in an RV. So I found some places in Arizona that I could live on. I could potentially have an income property there, another RV, or rent out an RV spot. Seemed like a great idea, all at half the cost of my house. Except, for reasons that maybe I'll explain in another more in-depth video, I can't get a mortgage on that type of property. Even though it's less than my house, there's specifics that prevent me from being able to get a mortgage. So that's not an option either. Which is why I'm back here talking to you. I know there have to be other people who are traveling with medical conditions that need regular care, people who are traveling with anxious pets, and I need that expertise. So if you have these experiences or you've seen other YouTube channels where they have had these experiences, please let me know. Because right now I am determined to find a new solution. For now, we're in sticks and bricks, but we're going to get out of here at some point. I just don't know what that's going to look like. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. If you're interested in seeing what we come up with, stay tuned. That's all I have for now. Thanks for listening.